Hey, hurry up and clean the house. I won't tolerate a slave like you taking a break. Then, shouting in anger, Andrew splashed the beer he was holding on to me, but caught off guard by this unexpected act. I was at a loss for words and frozen in shock. Ice to me and wanted, and my body became sticky with beer, and the distinct smell of it stung my nose. Seeing me stunned, Andrew continued to hurl insults at me. What should I do in this situation? I truly can't understand what Andrew wants from me. Confused and distressed. My mind was in turmoil, and I was at a loss for words. Suddenly, a voice from the computer interrupted the tense atmosphere. The moment Andrew heard that voice, the anger on his face froze and his power vanished. My name is Catherine. I'm 33 years old. I work at a company located in a rural area as an office clerk. Every day, I grapple with large amounts of data and documents, making use of a calculator to perform my tasks. Although I believe that using computers would improve work efficiency, I'm still considered a junior at the company, so I don't have a say in the matter. I always tread carefully around my superiors, even being forced to attend their drinking parties. Frankly, such a lifestyle has worn me out mentally. Hey, the figures here are incorrect. Did you make another mistake? Nah. Yes. You're right. I apologize. Seriously? Don't make such basic errors, okay? That time, whether it was the accumulated fatigue or something else. I kept making more mistakes at work, and my confidence in my abilities was rapidly lowering. It's so hard. Why do I keep messing up like this? But with the situation persisting, I wonder daily if I should continue this way or search for a new path. One day, as I pondered such thoughts, a new sales representative started visiting our workplace. That man was Andrew, who would later become my husband. From our first meeting, Andrew exuded kindness and he treated me warmly. Even though I was just someone serving tea, I was increasingly drawn to Andrew's kindness. However, I couldn't express my feelings to him. I wrongly assumed that he probably didn't think of me in a romantic way. We started going out for dinner after work and spending weekends together, which marked the beginning of our relationship. 2 years later, we got married and embarked on our new life together. Because of marriage, I quit my job and we searched for our dream home by visiting real estate agencies, eventually finding the perfect house. I was ecstatic at the thought of building a life with the man I love. Andrew, yet the life I ended up living was far from what I had imagined. About a month after our wedding, I began to sense a change in Andrew's demeanor. Andrew, welcome home. Oh, you're back quite early today. Just happened to be. Andrew wouldn't look at me, didn't greet me when he returned, and acted distant. His behavior was clearly different than usual, making me increasingly concerned. Hey, Andrew, are you feeling okay? You seem a bit worn out. Oh, maybe. Indeed. Andrew seemed different than usual. He seemed irritable and exhausted, and his mind appeared to be elsewhere. I thought, well, Andrew must be just tired today, which might be causing this behavior, and didn't dwell on it too much. However, Andrew's behavior persisted, and he continued to act distant. He began to refuse the packed lunches I made and went straight to work without them. He started coming home late without notifying me. Clearly, his considerate attitude towards me had vanished. I worried if I had unknowingly done something to upset Andrew. First, with these thoughts, the unease wouldn't leave my mind, and the days seemed to fly by. This situation changed a few months after Andrew's attitude began to shift. One day, he suddenly began hurling harsh words at me. At dinner time, without eating, Andrew spoke to me. Etchins, "Hey Catherine, do you even realize?" Without any context. I couldn't understand what he meant. I asked Andrew to explain himself a bit more. Andrew confidently said, "Do you even know that the food you make tastes bad?" What? Atabenmaritz, the food is bad? Yes. So you didn't know, huh? Every day, I'm forced to eat this awful food. Put yourself in my shoes. I was good at cooking, and when we were dating, Andrew always seemed to enjoy eating my dishes. He never complained and often said the food was delicious, so this was unexpected. But Andrew, you used to say it was delicious, and you ate a lot. Really? Haha, did I ever say that? Seeing the distressed look on my face, Andrew laughed heartily. After laughing for what felt like ages, he put down his chopsticks and went back to the bedroom. The meal remained untouched on the table. My feelings were a mixture of shock, confusion, and hurt. Why? Why is this happening? I managed to suppress my shaken feelings and repeated Andrew's words in my head, wondering if I had done something wrong. Could it be that my cooking was actually terrible all this while, and he was just hiding his feelings? Or had my cooking skills deteriorated, leading to tasteless meals? Such thoughts swirled in my mind, but I couldn't find a definitive answer. However, there was one reason I could think of that made sense to me: Andrew's indifferent attitude towards me and his unkind words. Perhaps he no longer loved me. Initially, I just thought he was being cold because he was a bit tired. But considering his recent behavior, he was clearly avoiding and being distant with me. The Andrew I knew before would tell me he was tired when he got home. But now he doesn't even mention that, indicating his feelings for me have surely faded. If this is true, have I done something to make him dislike me? I thought hard and searched my memories, but nothing came to mind. Andrew's puzzling behavior made me increasingly troubled, and my doubts about him only grew. Life went on like this, and another 2 months passed. Andrew's attitude worsened, and the man I once knew when we started dating was nowhere to be seen. I was frequently berated by him, and an irritated Andrew made it obvious by loudly hitting objects. "Hey Catherine, can't you even clean properly?" "What? Cleaning? The cleaning isn't done, right?" "Yes, that's right." Apolli's the bathroom, its surroundings, the living room. It's all dirty. You haven't done anything, have you? I always tried to keep the house clean and vacuum daily. I cleaned the bathroom, the toilet, and used the vacuum every day. Yet, Andrew seemed unsatisfied. I couldn't figure out what would please him. What? The cleaning isn't done? That can't be. I was devastated by Andrew's words, but his tirade continued without pause. The most painful part was when he said, "Why on earth did I marry such a worthless woman?" But once upon a time, Andrew would tell me he loved me every day. Was it all a lie? These thoughts crossed my mind, and tears started streaming down my face. "Hey, why are you crying? Please, enough with the fake tears." The before, Andrew would console me when I cried. But now he could say such cruel things without hesitation. He looked down on me with a sneer and went to the bedroom. We used to sleep together in the bedroom when we first got married. But recently, I've been kicked out and have become accustomed to sleeping on the sofa. Out neglected and ignored by Andrew, but I couldn't bring myself to consider divorce. Yes, I still believed in Andrew, but contrary to my hopes, his behavior worsened and his outbursts became more intense. "Hey, Catherine, where's my dinner?" He would hurry me for meals. And when I prepared them, he'd shout, "What is this? You expect me to eat this garbage?" I suggested dining out several times, but for some reason, Andrew firmly refused. I couldn't figure out what was wrong when I asked him, as he would just dodge the question. Yuck. But the moment he got home, he would complain about the cleanliness and rush me for meals daily. Ever since Andrew's behavior changed drastically, I've been wondering about the cause. But now, I believe he's simply using me as an outlet for his daily stress relief. But considering the inconsistency in his actions and words, and how he nitpicks and lashes out at me, it seems like the only plausible explanation. I understand that he's tired from work, but I wish he'd put himself in my shoes. I'm a human being too, but being subjected to his constant complaints and outbursts only builds up my stress. I hoped that one day he'd come around, but I've reached my breaking point. Andrew, hey, can you just stop already? I've reached my limit. Finally. I made up my mind and spoke up to Andrew. Understand work is tough and you're exhausted, but taking out that frustration on me has to stop. Do you think it's easy for me to just listen to your complaints every day? Hearing that, looking genuinely surprised, stared at me. What are you talking about? What do you mean frustrated? Exactly what I said. Every day when you come home from work, that's all you do is complain. I'm trying my best, you know? At first, Andrew listened to my words with a slight smirk, but when I finished speaking, his face turned beet red, and he became furious. What's gotten into you, acting all high and mighty? You need to know your place. Excuse me? Acting high and mighty. Exactly. Despite being a stay-at-home wife, you can't even clean or cook properly. How dare you complain? Just watching you live carelessly without reflecting on yourself infuriates me. Then tell me, Andrew, what am I doing wrong? If you point it out, I'll fix it. There's no point in telling you. even if I did, I know you wouldn't change. If you care so much, figure it out yourself. Even when I bravely asked what was bothering him, Andrew just evaded the question. And from this conversation alone, it was clear he saw me as nothing more than a target for his stress relief. As with me voicing out my feelings, the rift between us grew even deeper. Andrew started hurling more abusive words at me and shouting even louder, thinking about the happy and joyful days before our marriage. Every day was filled with sadness and sighs. Then one day, I received an unexpected phone call. It was from my mother-in-law. Our relationship isn't bad, but we don't call each other often. I hurriedly answered the phone, not wanting to keep her waiting. "Hello, it's Catherine." "Hello, Catherine. It's been a while. How have you been?" And mother-in-law's voice over the phone was as cheerful as always. After some small talk, she revealed the reason for her call. "Wait, you're starting to do handmade crafts?" "Yes. Recently, I wanted to have a hobby. Then I remembered you were into handmade crafts. I was wondering if you could teach me a bit about it. I enjoyed doing handmade crafts as a hobby, spending time collecting materials and making things whenever my husband was not around. A long time ago, I mentioned this hobby to my mother-in-law. It was just a casual conversation topic back then, but I was delighted that she remembered. Of course, I'd be happy to help if you'd like. From then on, we started communicating more through video calls from our homes. Instead of regular calls, we opted for video calls. At first, we used only voice calls, but explaining things like the materials and demonstrating the crafting process became challenging with voice alone, so we switched to video calls. Although her place wasn't too far away, it was inconvenient to visit every time I needed to. I needed to teach her something, so video calls were much more convenient. Every time we had a scheduled session, I would enter my room filled with crafting tools and proceed with the crafting process while chatting with her. Working on crafts while chatting with her felt refreshing, especially after dealing with my husband's unkind words and attitudes. By the way, Catherine, how have things been with your husband lately? Are you two getting along? No, well, yes, we're fine. That's good to hear. Please take care of him. I felt a bit perplexed, but decided to stay silent about my husband's true behavior. Above all, I didn't want to burden my mother-in-law with unnecessary worries. And during these pleasant moments with her, I wanted to forget about him. His terrible attitude remained unchanged, even after I started the video calls with my mother-in-law to ensure she never found out about his horrible behavior. And managed to hide and disguise it during our video calls. But then, one day, something I had feared finally happened. It was a Saturday several weeks after I had started video calling with my mother-in-law. I had finished my chores as usual to make sure I was on time for our call when suddenly the door to the room was thrown open. "Andrew, why?" I turned around in surprise at the noise, and there stood Andrew holding something in his hand. He seemed unaware of the video call and started walking towards me. "Hey, Catherine, what are you sneaking around doing here?" What about cleaning and laundry? What are you talking about? I've already finished. You saw me doing it, didn't you? Tuh. I didn't see anything. Don't lie. Of course he didn't see. He had been lying on the living room couch watching TV the whole time. Andrew, you were watching TV all the time. Maybe you didn't notice me doing the chores? What are you talking back to me? You're so annoying. Enraged by my words, Andrew yelled, "Get to cleaning the house now. I won't tolerate you slacking off like some slave." Then he splashed the liquid he was holding at me. I recognized the distinct smell immediately. It was beer. My body became sticky from the beer, and its overpowering smell filled my nose. Caught off guard by his actions, I was rendered speechless and motionless. Get it? If you understand, get moving. At that, he kicked a stack of books that had been piled nearby. The books went flying across the room, followed by Andrew's crude laughter echoing loudly. I couldn't muster any resistance. All I could do was stare at the books scattered on the beer-soaked floor. I clenched my teeth tightly, overwhelmed with frustration. Hey, Andrew, picturing you're acting pretty tough, aren't you? Is that all you have to say? Right from the computer in front of me, a man's voice could be heard. What? Could it be Dad? Yes. Then on the other side of the computer's video call was Andrew's father, my father-in-law. Hey, what the hell are you doing to Catherine? I saw everything, insulting her with harsh words and even throwing beer on her. When did you become such a despicable person? No, you've got it wrong. It's a misunderstanding. A dad. As soon as my father-in-law began to speak over the video call, Andrew's arrogant attitude vanished completely. Instead, he seemed genuinely frightened of his father. Nonetheless, my father-in-law gave him a relentless lecture, voicing his anger. Andrew, what's the misunderstanding? Or by the looks of it, today isn't the first time you've behaved like this, right? There's no misunderstanding at all, is there? Well, you see, hey, what are you trying to hide? Andrew, when did you become such a man? My father-in-law said, his voice filled with disbelief. I could understand his shock, realizing that his own son had repeatedly treated his wife with such verbal abuse and disrespect. Ignoring Andrew, who couldn't muster a response and looked completely flustered, my father-in-law kindly said to me, Atran, I'm sorry about this. Would you like to come to our house now? Ellie, to your house right now? Yes. I'm concerned about leaving you with Andrew as he is. If you're okay with it, I can come pick you up right away. How does that sound? I was taken aback by his sudden offer, but upon reflection, I waved to Vise. I was apprehensive about what might happen if I continued to stay with Andrew. Are you sure it's okay, father-in-law? If it's all right with you, Catherine, then of course. I'll get ready and pick you up. And James, if you dare lay a hand on Catherine before I get there, you won't be forgiven. After my father-in-law delivered his message to me and Andrew, he ended the video call. I quickly started preparing to head over to my in-laws' place. After packing up some belongings, I headed to the entrance to await my father-in-law's arrival. Mr. Andrew, meanwhile, observed my actions with a restless demeanor and said nothing the whole time. But a short while later, my in-laws came to pick me up. I thanked them and headed straight to their home. When my father-in-law appeared at the entrance, Andrew had an unprecedented look of fear on his face. It was clear he was quite intimidated by his father. I said, "Hey, Andrew, reflect on how you've treated Catherine up to now. Think about it tonight, all right? Dad, I'm sorry." "Stop. You should be apologizing to Catherine, not me. I don't want to hear any excuses. Reflect on your actions." And stations, my father-in-law, angered by Andrew's response, escorted me to the car parked outside. Although I had changed my clothes after being drenched with beer, I hadn't been able to shower, so my hair was still dripping wet. Seeing this, my father-in-law gently draped a bath towel over me, apologizing softly as he helped me into the car. A few minutes after departing, we arrived at my in-laws' home where my mother-in-law was waiting. "Oh, Catherine, you're all soaked. Are you okay?" "Thank you, mother-in-law. I'm so sorry." She hugged me softly and said, "Come here," leading me towards the bathroom. "Catherine, please take your time and have a bath. I'll leave towels and a change of clothes here for you." "Thank you, mother-in-law. I'm really grateful." Amid the rapid turn of events, I was still in shock. After taking a bath and changing into the clothes prepared for me, I returned to the living room where my in-laws were. "Thank you for the bath, father-in-law and mother-in-law. I feel so much better now." "Oh, my Catherine, it's okay, don't worry about it." The sofa was occupied by my father-in-law, who had a serious expression, and my mother-in-law, who looked concerned about me. Encouraged by my mother-in-law, I took a seat on the sofa. "I'm sorry, but could you tell us about the things Andrew has been doing up to now?" "Do you mean about Andrew?" "Yes. Judging by what happened earlier, it's not the first time he's acted that way, is it?" Yeah, you're right." "Catherine, don't worry about us. Just be honest and tell us everything." I wondered where to begin, unable to find the words immediately. I remained silent. After a few minutes, having collected my thoughts, I began to speak. I spoke about my life since marrying Andrew, and why I hadn't consulted my in-laws before. They listened quietly and calmly to everything I said. That's why something like what happened earlier occurred. Though, if only you had told us earlier without any hesitation. And I'm sorry, mother-in-law. I just didn't want to worry you. Understand how you feel. Catherine. But with someone like Andrew, if you let him get too confident, he doesn't know his limits. You're right, father-in-law. I'm sorry. Even though I was being cautioned, I realized that my in-laws were genuinely concerned about me. After that, a deep silence continued. They both seemed to be deep in thought. I wanted to ask what they were thinking, but the atmosphere was too heavy to do so. After a few minutes of this silence, "Catherine, I need to ask you something. Even under these circumstances, Do you still love Andrew? What? Why would you ask something like that? Well, I'm just thinking, given it's Andrew, he might end up repeating the same actions towards you. If that's the case, I thought maybe it's better for you two to get a divorce. My mother-in-law, sitting next to him, quietly nodded in agreement. I never imagined I'd consider divorcing Andrew, let alone having the idea suggested by his own parents. It's possible that life might be easier if I divorced Andrew, but would a divorce make him reconsider his ways? I had a faint hope for him, which is why, even under these circumstances, I couldn't make the decision to divorce. Still, my in-laws waited patiently, not pressing me for an answer. After a few minutes of deep thought, I came to a decision. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, I've decided to divorce Andrew. I firmly declared my decision to divorce. It's not that I didn't harbor any hope or trust for Andrew. My in-laws looked visibly relieved at my decision. Later, after discussing with my in-laws, we decided I would propose the divorce to Andrew the next day. I was finally going to be free from Andrew. I'd always hoped that Andrew would change, but now, having accepted that he might not, I was filled with deep emotion. The next day, accompanied by my in-laws, I went to Andrew's house with the divorce papers. As soon as I rang the doorbell, Andrew promptly came out. Catherine, welcome home. Wait, edged the community. Why are you here too? Being his parents with me. Given the incident from the previous day, one would expect him to realize that there was no way I would return alone. I entered the house and sat down on the sofa. As his self-teaching state, my in-laws joined me, and we began discussing the divorce. Separate night devalmdakter ideal. Andrew seemed at a loss for words, displaying neither an apologetic nor a definitive stance. As I watched his expression for a moment, I braced myself to convey my crucial decision. Andrew, I think we should get a divorce. What? Why? Why a divorce? And I've thought about it a lot, and I don't think we can be happy together anymore. If we continue like this, the same issues will just keep recurring, and maybe there's no future for us. Oh, Catherine, that's not true. Let's reconsider. It's too late to say that now. I haven't even received an apology from you. Doesn't that mean you haven't truly reflected on your actions? Can you promise never to verbally abuse or treat me poorly again? Catherine, I'm sorry. After hearing my words, Andrew finally apologized. But I no longer had the option to forgive him. But no matter how much you apologize, it's a waste of time. Please sign this divorce paper. I had the support of my in-laws. That's why I could express my feelings clearly to Andrew. Indeed, I did some terrible things. But I never imagined it would lead to a divorce. What? You didn't think I'd divorce you? You really only think of yourself, don't you? Beecher could only hang his head in response to my words. For had all his arrogance gone. After our exchange, Andrew reluctantly signed the divorce papers. In the end, I never heard a genuine apology from him, and our marriage ended without one. By the way, there was something I wanted to ask. While packing, a thought crossed my mind, so I asked John before leaving the house. Andrew, why did your attitude change so much as soon as we got married? You weren't like this at all when we were dating, right? Well, I just didn't want to be taken lightly. I mean, I didn't want to be seen as too soft or easygoing. What do you mean you didn't want to be taken lightly? Did I ever behave that way towards you when we were dating? No. Please, stop having such weird delusions. Seriously, thinking rationally, there's no way I ever behaved like that. I'm sorry. After that exchange, I left the home we had lived in during our marriage with my in-laws. I would probably never return to this house again. I really liked the house, so I regretted leaving it behind. After submitting the divorce papers, my in-laws graciously welcomed me into their home, and a new life began. Isn't being a homemaker with no income, they told me I could live with them. At first, it was nerve-wracking, but now I've grown accustomed to living with them and even enjoy spending time with my mother-in-law. Meanwhile, Andrew tried to contact me on my cell phone several times. But after my father-in-law told him to cut ties, the messages stopped. Maybe Andrew, who looked surprised, didn't know I was staying with my in-laws, that he tried to secretly contact me after our divorce, made me realize he still looked down on me. I feel relieved to have divorced such a self-centered, hopeless man. I am so grateful to my in-laws who suggested the divorce from their own son. A year has passed since the divorce. I've started living on my own and found a part-time job, leading a fulfilling life. Although my in-laws said I could continue living with them, I felt it wasn't right to rely on them forever and decided to live independently. I still keep in touch with my in-laws, and they treat me like real family. We may not be related by blood, but to me, they are a true family, and I am filled with gratitude. My current goal is to express that gratitude tangibly. Every day, he says I think about what I can do to make them smile with happiness, never forgetting my gratitude to them. I cherish my daily life,